Do you wonder if you're the best version of yourself? This is the question we seek to answer in this podcast. We reveal information that helps you recover your health and become resilient. Modern life makes us fragile. Our diet, lifestyle, and environment set us up for failure. We do not accept this. We seek optimization. We strive to become dynamic. Hey, what's going on? Dr. Chris here, and today I want to talk about sleep, specifically poor sleep, and how it affects your blood sugar. If you guys have been listening to me for a while, you know I'm kind of obsessed with blood sugar. It's so foundational to human health. It's one of the main homeostatic regulators of the body, and it's the underlying issue in so many problems that we have. So I've been hyper-focused on it for the past few years. And I was born hypoglycemic, so if you're not careful with hypoglycemia, then you can tip into diabetes. So I very tightly regulate my blood sugar, and periodically, a couple times a year, I'll get a continuous glucose monitor and just check in, and I'm actually wearing one right now. And that's what stimulated this idea. Is I've been watching my blood sugars through the Aura app, which I love, by the way. I love that they integrated with Stelo. And I got some insights I kind of want to talk about, and then some of the mechanisms. So one of the things I very quickly realized, and I kind of heard about this, but I want to see it in real time, is that a night of poor sleep can basically put you in a pre-diabetic state for that day, like 5 hours or so. And I found it to be very true. Every time I'm poorly slept, I got to say my dog is not doing well. He has bone cancer, unfortunately. So he's kind of in the final throes of life. So there's a lot of yelping and stuff that we're trying to do our best to keep him comfortable. But anyways, point being, it's definitely interrupted my sleep a lot. And those nights that I'm dealing with that, and I have a lot of interruptions. I'm sleeping generally less and not sleeping as deep. There is a noticeable increase in my baseline glucose that night, that day, sometimes even into the following day. And that is important because then the body is not as resilient to an onslaught of sugar, or cortisol and sugar, I should say, because I don't really eat any processed sugar. But if I had sushi and I had some rice with it the other day, and I was poorly slept, and normally I have no problem with that, but that put me up to, I think, 150, 160 range, which is definitely over the line. You want to stay below 140. Even driving, driving is a very, fixed state, a sympathetic state to a mild degree. That does always elevate my cortisol and therefore blood sugar. And on days I'm poorly slept, that will push me past that boundary that I want to stay below. So I think this is key. I think it's very analogous to cold plunging. So, I use the cold plunge a lot, and I love it. And one of the things I've noticed with the years of doing it is that days I'm poorly slept or in a more heightened stress state, I'm going to tolerate the cold plunge less. So, some days I can get in there for 5 to 10 minutes and I feel great. Other days where I'm under high stress, maybe 2 minutes is a struggle. So I kind of almost use the cold plunge as an assessment as well. So I wanted to dig in and figure out the exact mechanism behind why poor sleep reduces your sensitivity to insulin. That's really what it boils down to. What I found is sort of 5 main categories of things that happen. So the first one is the stress response. So when you are poorly slept, that is a stressor to the body. So normally when you wake up, that cortisol is produced, but that gets elevated when you're under a stressful situation. Again, cortisol releases sugar into the blood. Your body should be able to normally handle these cortisol spikes, but when it becomes consistent, then your blood sugars can remain elevated. The next one I kind of already alluded to is lowering insulin sensitivity. So as a review, insulin pushes sugar out of the blood and into the liver and muscles. There are several mechanisms behind that, but one of the main ones is that you have most of your cells in your body, not all, but most, have insulin receptors. Now, those receptors, those become downregulated when you're in a stress state. So when insulin comes to do its job, it's not receptive to it, basically. Also, more cravings means less control. So when you're sleep deprived, your appetite hormones go out of balance. So you've got ghrelin, that's the hormone that makes you feel hungry. That goes up. And then leptin, that's the hormone that signals fullness. That goes down. So that is the explanation of why you're more likely to reach out for sugared or high carb snacks, processed food when you're tired. And the bad thing there is those choices that it can send your blood sugar on basically a roller coaster ride. Then there is the effect on the brain. So your brain can run on glucose. It's actually like a resource hog for glucose. But if you're sleep deprived, it becomes less efficient at using glucose. So that means that more sugar lingers in your blood, and at the same time your brain keeps signaling that it wants a quick source of energy. So that's why when you're poorly slept, you might be craving sugar or something sweet. And then lastly, it's inflammation. So if you're poorly slept, your inflammation goes up in your body. If you have high C-reactive protein in your blood work, that means you've got sort of chronic systemic inflammation of the body. So inflammation, unfortunately, interferes with how insulin works, which just adds another layer of difficulty. So it's kind of like putting fuel on the fire. So what can you do? Well, you got to prioritize your sleep. I'll give you some key points here. I also put together a free download on sleep optimization. I'll drop that in the show notes. And also, let me just say, check for sleep apnea, especially if you're male with a thick neck. It's super common, super underdiagnosed, and that is so bad for your health and jacks up your blood sugars. So I'll also put a link to a questionnaire I have online because you can get it addressed. In fact, I definitely have sleep apnea, and I've been using CPAP for about 5 years. It's completely changed my life. And just today, I found a ResMed travel-sized CPAP. It's about $1,000, and you can just buy it online. You don't need a script for it. I'm sure you can get it covered through insurance, but just know that is an option. It's made by Lofta. I don't have an affiliate account with them at all, but I think it's a good product. So you should definitely aim for 7 to 9 hours. They say that the magic really happens of recovery in the 8 to 9 hour window. Keep it consistent, so try to go to bed on time at the right time, a consistent time, and wake up at a consistent time. Probably a good idea to establish like a wind down routine. So a lot of things you can do here. You could do light yoga or stretching. You could do foam rolling. You could do breath work. Anything that's more parasympathetic. Reading a book, actually, like a non-stimulating book, is a good idea. And then staying away from blue light as much as you can. This is a hard one in our society. So you can replace bulbs with like red light or amber light. I've done that to a lot of the rooms in my house. Ideally, you just have light on at night, but you got to live in society. So if you can't do that, if you can't replace all your bulbs, you could do blue light blocking glasses. The blue light from electronics like TVs, laptops, cell phones, that stimulates cortisol production, which turns off melatonin production. Those are opposite hormones, right? So if you're having difficulty falling asleep, that's probably why. Too much light in the eyes. The other big one that I find that people kind of miss out on is you have to sleep cold, like really cold. I set my AC to 62. I would say 68 is kind of a bare minimum, but your core body temperature has to drop a bit for you to fall asleep, and not only to fall asleep, but to go into those deeper stages of sleep. So if you do have an Oura Ring or some sort of sleep tracker and you're finding that you're sleeping a lot but not deeply, that could be the issues, the lack of coldness. Also, the brain is highly associative, so make your room your cave. That's where you go to sleep. It's not a good idea to be watching movies in bed or, playing Words with Friends in bed. If you do that with a lot of repetition, the brain sort of says, oh, this is the room I go to stay up and do stuff. It doesn't have that association of sleeping. I've also found a cold shower before bed is a really good idea to help you fall asleep. And it doesn't have to be super cold, like just a little bit of discomfort. That can really help you fall asleep. Having the right amount of calories in the system is a good idea too. If you shouldn't be fasting at night, let's put it that way, or of course you're fasting when you sleep, but don't just try to grossly restrict your calories. That'll wake you up. Being too low carb can, for some people, be a stressor on the body and wake you up. And for the same reasons, having the right amount of hydration, so making sure you're doing hydration and electrolytes too. If you're dehydrated, that can also wake you up. Those are some key points there. I'll drop a link to some ebooks that I've put together on this type of stuff. It's all free. So that's it. I'll kind of wrap it up there. Sleep is something that needs to be prioritized. If you're not recovering, if you're getting injured, you're getting sick a lot, you're probably underslept. Get a tracker if you don't know, because it's always alarming once you first start using one, because you're probably sleeping less than you think. The other thing too is a lot of people will sort of get up really early and go to the gym, which is fine, but just if you've only had 5 hours of sleep, it's not worth going to the gym. I'd much rather prioritize getting 7 or 8 hours and then going to the gym. I think I heard Stan Efferding say this first. Doing that is like stepping over a $100 bill to pick up a penny, right? Prioritize the sleep first. A ship in harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are meant to do. What does this mean? It means exposing yourself to difficult situations so you become resilient. If you need help building resilience, check out our flagship program called Physiologic Flexibility. This is a 3-month do-it-yourself program that teaches you how to maximize your homeostatic regulators, such as your pH, blood glucose, O2 and CO2 tolerance, and temperature. We give you specific action items through the program with the goal of becoming anti-fragile. If you want to become the inspiration for your friends and family, this is the program for you.